Yeah, the people they won't leave. What is threatening about divesting and want a piece? The problem isn't the protest, it's what they're protesting. It goes against what our country is funding. Block the barricade until Palestine is free. Block the barricade until Palestine is free. When I was 7, I learned a lesson from Cuban Eazy-E. What was it again? Oh yeah, fuck the police. Actors and badges protecting property in a system that was designed by white supremacy. But the people are in the streets. You can pay off Meta, you can't pay off me. Politicians who serve by any means, APAC, Kofi, and all the companies. You see, we sell fear around the land of the free, but this generation here is about to cut the strings. You can ban TikTok, take us out the algorithm, but it's too late. We've seen the truth, we bear witness. Seen the rubble, the buildings, the mothers and the children, and all the men that you murdered, and then we see how you spin it. Who gets the right to defend and who gets the right of resistance? Has always been about dying from the color of your pigment, but white supremacy is finally on blast, screaming free Palestine to their homeland. We see the lies and claiming it's anti-Semitic to be anti-Zionist. I seen Jewish brothers and sisters out there and writhing in solidarity and screaming free Palestine, with them organizing and learning and finally cutting ties with the state that's gotta rely on apartheid system to uphold an occupying violent history. Been repeating for the last 75. The Nakba never ended, the colonizer lied. If students' intents posted on the lawn, occupying the quad is really against the law, and a reason to call in the police and their squad. Where does genocide land in your definition, huh? Destroying every college in Gaza and every mosque, pushing everyone into Rafah and dropping bombs. The blood is on your hands, Biden, we can see it all. And fuck no, I'm not voting for you in the fall. Undecided, you can't twist the truth, the people out here united. Never be defeated when freedom's on the horizon. Yet the music industry's quiet, complicit in their platform of silence. What happened to the artist? What you gotta say? If I was on a label, you could drop me today. I'll be fine with it, cause the heart fed my page. I want a ceasefire, fuck a response from Drake. What you willing to risk? What you willing to give? What if you were in Gaza? What if those were your kids? If the West was pretending that you didn't exist, you want the world to stand up, and the students finally did. Let's get it.
Greetings. Hello, hello, everyone. We hope that you are well and in good spirits. Welcome, welcome, welcome to another edition of Our Ancestors' Voices. We are so happy that you are here with us today. What a very relevant and important topic, right on time for us to discuss for today. U.S. consumer debt and holiday pressure in 2025. Very much right on time and very much very connected to the propaganda and all of the rhetoric that is shoved down our throats every single year. And we are going to talk in more detail about that. We are so happy that you are here with us today. So, just to communicate for those that are brand new, we welcome you to our Ancestors' Voices. This is a weekly seminar that is hosted by the All African People's Revolutionary Party. And we have two of the party members with us today who are hosting. We have Baba Ajamu, who you will hear from in just a moment, and myself, Shukura, who are both organizers with the party. Ajamu has been organizing for more than 41 years, and I am approaching year 5 in February. So we are very happy to be here with you today, not only to talk about US consumer debt and holiday pressure, but to talk about further understandings as to why it's important to have a understanding of how classism and propaganda and capitalism and other entities, imperialism, basically are set up to make sure that certain entities continue to profit off of the suffering and the oppression of the masses of people. And so, if we can share some more information with you and give you some opportunities to do further research, then we have done our job, and we are proud to be members of an organization that continues to do that for humanity every single day. So, again, if you are new, we welcome you. And if you are returning, good to have you back with us. Thank you for being with us. Of course, we cannot start our seminar without acknowledging our comrades of the Western Hemisphere, our comrades of indigenous descent of the Western Hemisphere, and we acknowledge that this is their land. We will say it until we are blue in the face. We will say it until we don't have breath in our bodies. We will say it even with our spirits once the breath physically leaves our body. We will stand on the highest mountain and we will continue to say that this is indigenous peoples of the Western Hemisphere land. And so we would be remiss if we did not acknowledge that. And so we want to thank them for continuing to be longtime allies and supporters of our organizing work as the All African People's Revolutionary Party. But we also want to continue to express our solidarity with them as well. And the one way that we can do that first is by acknowledging that this is their land and continuing to thank them for allowing us to be here. Just to be clear, we are talking about the very tops of Canada, all the way down to the very bottom of Chile. All of that land is indigenous people of the Western Hemisphere land. And so we would be with guilt had we not mentioned that. And so we definitely want to acknowledge that. And we just want to continue to let our indigenous folks and comrades know that we are here with them. We see you. We have not forgotten about you. This work that we do is to honor you and to help your people to become free, and hopefully for us to do the same. And we know you are doing work to do that as well. So we thank you. And just to let you all know, we are switching it up just a little bit today. If you normally come, then you know that we usually have Baba Ajamu who does our intros, and then I have a few slides, and then Comrade Ajamu will come back and close us out. So today I am doing the intro, or really the title slide, if you will, and then I will pass it to Baba Ajamu, and then I will close us back out afterwards. Okay, so next slide, please. So just to give you a little bit more information about the All African People's Revolutionary Party, as well as the All African Women's Revolutionary Union. These are two components of the AAPRP. Our Ancestors' Voices is sponsored by said All African People's Revolutionary Party, and the party, as well as the All African Women's Revolutionary Union, or the Union, as you might hear us say, is a combined force that is a revolutionary, independent, mass Pan-African political party that is based out of Africa. All of the work that we do, everything that we are fighting for, the policies that we are pushing, the ideologies that we will express to you that we believe in and that drive our decisions. You've heard us talk about the revolutionary African personality. Everything that we have spoke to you about in terms of the work that we are doing, it comes from us understanding that any of the problems African people are facing, and when we say African, we are pulling correctly from Kwame Nkrumah's definition that Africa is that you are not African because you were born in Africa. You are African because Africa was born in you. So we are speaking to any person who had Africa born in them, whether they want to admit it or not. And we understand that in order to fix the problems that people who have Africa born in them are currently facing, whether it's housing crisis, economics, health disparities, social inequities, whatever, we understand that that problem must be addressed by connecting to the conditions of Africa as it is. Whether you're speaking to neocolonialism, whether you're speaking to Eurocentric influence, if you're speaking to white supremacy, patriarchy, polygamy, it does not matter. It is all connected. Trust us when we say. And so this is why we understand that. And this is why we have a mass political party that is based out of Africa, because we have every intention of working to address the issues at home on the continent, so that therefore, once we have that under a Pan-Africanist lens, or what we like to call a one unified socialist Africa, so once Africa is operating under a unified socialist Africa, then African people are in a better position everywhere, because Africa itself will be free to make different decisions, so that African people who might not even be on the continent will still be impacted in a positive way. It is very simple in terms of how we outline that. So we are following from the Pan-Africanist, one unified socialist Africa. We are also pulling from Kwame Nkrumah. You just heard me mention the name a moment ago. This is one of our founders of the All African People's Revolutionary Party. And this comrade was brilliant beyond measure. You see the book in the bottom of the slide in the center, one of the many books that Nkrumah was able to write and publish. This one is called the Handbook of Revolutionary Warfare, which basically is a guide, if you will, not just on how we can understand how the All African People's Revolutionary Party is really falling under an umbrella of other coordinated All African People coordination parties, so other organizations that are sibling to us, all fighting to do this work of freeing Africa, and again creating, as Nkrumah calls it, a USA, a United States of Africa, where we eradicate ourselves of the barriers and eradicate ourselves of the colonial borders, and instead operate on a one nation, one unified socialist Africa. All right. And so, as I said before, each week this seminar is hosted by two AAPRP organizers, Baba Ajamu, as well as myself, Shukura. We are also father and daughter, and we are very, very happy to be with you. So with that, I will turn it over to Baba Ajamu. Thank you for being with us, you all.
Thank you as well. Always computer problems. And I'm glad that you all are able to join us for this topic. And so we'll get into it in terms of what we want to leave you with today is a couple of things. One, understanding consumer debt. You're a worker or someone who doesn't work. You don't work, you spend somebody else's money, whatever the case may be, you're still a part of the working class, and that makes you a consumer. And being a consumer, the topic tonight is just the skyrocketing debt that consumers are facing because of this backward economy in this country. And then here comes December, where you have all of this social pressure to submit to the whims of the capitalist holiday, that you have to buy people things. And if you don't do that, then there's something wrong with you and all that kind of backward thinking. So we want to provide an analysis of what kind of pressure all of this puts on people, right? So we start with consumer debt trends. And what we mean, again, the definition of consumer debt are individual and family debt, meaning money that people owe, right? That you borrow, money that you borrow, that you owe, whether it be through loans or credit cards, money that you owe as an individual or a family is defined as consumer debt. It's not corporate debt. Like, you don't generate debt as a corporation. So that's the differentiation between corporate debt and consumer debt. And also, for consumers, the primary methods in which debt is developed are through two means. You have installment debt, and you have revolving debt. Now, installment debt are loans that you have. They have to be loans, and they're loans that have a an amount that you owe, and you pay the same amount every month until that loan balance is paid off. So if you have a fixed interest mortgage loan, for example, that means that your interest rate will never change because it's fixed. That's what fixed means. If you have a variable interest rate, that means you could have a $500 payment one month and a $2,500 payment the next month. So you don't ever want a variable rate mortgage loan. But if you have a fixed rate, your payment is the same every month until that loan is paid off or whatever happens there. Um, Same with a car loan. You have a car, you have a loan, you owe $30,000 on a loan, 20,000, 15,000, 10,000, whatever it is. You have a payment amount every month, and that payment amount stays the same until that loan is paid off. That's installment debt. That's the definition of installment debt. Revolving debt is debt where you have an amount. If you have $1,000, your monthly payment is going to be a certain amount because you pay so much every $1,000. If you have $5,000, your monthly payment is going to be higher. If you have $20,000, it's going to be much higher. So unlike installment debt, the amount doesn't stay the same. The amount is determined by how much you owe, right? And of course, your interest rate in both instances. So that's the definition, the necessary definitions for consumer debt. And if we look at this year, 2025, consumer debt is currently at $18.39 trillion, meaning people's individual and family debt is at an all-time high. That 18 trillion 39 is an all-time high. It's never at any point in history been any higher than it is right now. And this is as of October of 2025. These are the amounts. And, I'm one of these strange people. I love to study this data. This is what I studied in school when I got a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. And the only reason why I wanted to study it is because were two reasons why I got the degrees. One was I saw in doing APRP work that when you had an advanced degree, I didn't see it when you had a bachelor's degree, but when you had a master's degree or a PhD, people tended to listen to you more. So it was a tactical decision on my part to get the degrees because I would participate on panels and people would listen to the people who had the letters behind their names as opposed to, someone who had done very good organizing work. So that's the reason why I wanted to do that, number one. And then number two, I wanted to understand how capitalism works. Because what I find is that everybody has an opinion about capitalism, but very, very, very few people can explain how this economic system works on a day-to-day basis, how it impacts people's lives on a day-to-day basis, the things that happen in the system in a global economy, how that breaks down all the way to your dinner table and what you're able to do there. So these are the two reasons why I pursued these bourgeois degrees. And so this is why I'm able to, over the years, generate this information and use it as it should be used to supply it to you so that we can use it to better prepare ourselves to organize in this society, which in no way, form, or fashion operates in our interests. Okay. So if we take a quick look at the graph on the left, it talks about the consumer debt, and this is in trillions, right? 3.63 trillion 2026, and it goes up just to this graph is just to 2021. The first quarter of 2021, it went up to 4.24, and as I mentioned, it's skyrocketed since then, right? As you can see. So, understanding that you have the revolving debt is what we're really going to focus on today, or another term for that is unsecured debt, meaning if you have a house or you have a car or something of that nature, the whatever the product is, that's the collateral. That's what the collateral is. If you have a house or a boat or RV or a car, that's the collateral. Meaning, if you don't pay, the bank who you're making payments for those products can come and pick up the product and take it from you, repossess it. So that's the collateral. With credit cards, there's no collateral. That's why they're called unsecured debt. They're not secured by anything, right? So that's the difference there. So we're talking primarily today about unsecured credit, primarily credit cards, because that's what most people have. The majority of people out here don't have the credit qualifications to qualify for higher level unsecured credit, like home equity lines of credit or HELOCs, for example. But pretty much everyone, unless you just really just have, gangsterized credit, which a lot of people do, unfortunately. But if you have that, then, if you don't have, if you have that, then that's the only real way you couldn't qualify for any type of credit card, because the credit card companies are vultures, and so they're constantly trying to find people who they can get on the hook owing them money. So the requirements are not nearly as extensive as they are for all these other credit products. But if you look at the total picture, total consumer debt was 18 trillion in 2020, right? And so from 2020 to 2025, 5 years, this is an increase of $390 billion to get us to the figure of 18.39 that we're at right now. So just think about that for a second. Consumer debt increased almost $400 billion in this country in just a 5 year period, right? It's almost $100 billion a year that it increased. And by comparison, if you want something to look at to give you an analysis of what all that means, um, the country of Nigeria, which is the most populous country in Africa, 220 million people live in Nigeria. 350 million people live in this country. And this country's the third largest country in the world behind China and India. So that gives you an idea how large Nigeria is. It's one of the, top, I believe, in the top 10 in population in countries on the planet Earth. And the Nigerian gross national product, meaning the dollars that are produced out of the Nigerian economy on an annual basis, is 360 billion dollars. That's Nigeria's annual gross national product. So the point I'm making is, in 5 years, in just 5 simple years, just consumer debt from people in the US has risen above the national gross national product of a large country like Nigeria. So that tells you, kind of gives you a gauge of how much consumer debt is, really an albatross, a big problem for people in this country. And again, we want to focus on this question of unsecured debt, right? And unsecured debt, again, is important because it's the type of debt that grows. If you have credit limits of $50,000, you can charge up $50,000 in one day and owe that, right? And have a huge payment that you have to make every month to get that down, right? So that's what makes it so dangerous. And also, from the creditor standpoint, the banks, the people that lend money, unsecured credit is offers the highest risk, because when people have financial challenges, lose your job, or your income is reduced for any reason, whatsoever, your expenses go up, whatever the case is, the first thing that people stop paying is their unsecured credit. You're not going to, if you have credit card debt, you have a car, you have a house, or for most people, if you have a car payment and you have credit card debt, you're not going to allow your car to be repossessed to pay the credit card debt. You're going to stop paying the credit card debt. And the creditors know that. That's why credit card interest rates are so much higher, because what these banks and lending institutions do is the rate that they offer you, the what they call profit and loss, the amount that they're expecting to lose, the number of people who are going to default and not pay, that's built into the rate that they offer you. That's why if you have, a 750 credit score, we'll talk about that more in a second, your rates are going to be much lower than if you have a 600 credit score. Because if you have a 600 credit score, you're going to have a much higher rate, because they're factoring in the higher potential for you to default and not pay what you owe them. And so they're prejudging you. That's how the system works. That's exactly how it works. And so if we look at credit card debt right now, October 2025, credit card debt is at 1.21 trillion. That's 1.21 trillion of the 18.39 trillion. So the major portion of consumer debt are the other things like I mentioned, home equity lines of credit are huge. Signature loans are huge. Any type, car loans are included in that. Mortgage loans are included in that. So obviously, that's going to make sense that that's $18.39 trillion. But again, 1.21 trillion of that is unsecured credit card debt. That's like 7% of all consumer debt is credit card debt. And from an economic standpoint, that's alarming because it's risen substantially over the last 15, 20 years. And so what that means is we're looking at in just a number of years, credit card debt is going to be 10% and growing of all consumer debt. So that tells you a couple of things, right? What that means is that a lot of people out here are relying on their credit cards to live from month to month. And what the way that looks is that people make whatever they make from whatever income they have, and the income falls short. It doesn't provide for their needs throughout the entire 30-day month calendar each month. So they look to their credit cards to fill in that gap. And the problem with that is that when they're doing that, they're just trying to make ends meet for the month. They're not in the position where they can think long terms about how they're going to be able to navigate through that credit card debt. And that's why it gets out of control. And I'm not saying that as a means of blaming people for that, because, we're going to talk at the end about the contradictions with this, how consumers who develop debt that they're unable to pay are stigmatized as lazy and irresponsible, whereas corporations do that every day and they're not stigmatized in any type of negative way. But we'll talk about that more. But if we take all the credit card debt, the 1.21 trillion, and we divide that by 200 million people, because that's approximately the number of people in this country who would be old enough and able, based on criteria, to have any type of credit card debt, right? Because they're people who are, older, um, not engaged in going out shopping, not doing that. Maybe they are just not of the mind where they can do that, and there are people who are not old enough to have credit cards. So 200 million is an approximate number, right? And if we did that, if we divided the $1.21 trillion by the 200 million people, then what that would mean is the average person in this country has a credit card debt of $3,500, meaning you owe $3,500 in credit card debt. That would be the average, right, for you. The average credit card limit in the US is about $20,000. Now, you got to understand, because I know you hear that, you're like, I don't qualify, I ain't got no $20,000 credit card limit on none of my cards. Well, this is an average. And what an average means is that you take everybody, you divide everybody, and you come up with an average. So there are a lot of people who have high credit card limits, right? High credit card limits, 30, 40, $50,000 in credit card limits. And so they're in that average. You might have a $500 credit card limit. You're in that average, but we're talking about the average. The average is not the same as median. It's, this is a economics 101 lesson for you today, free of charge. Compliments of the All African People's Revolutionary Party. You won't get it from Wells Fargo Bank or Bank of America. They don't want you to know any of this because they're trying to steal your underwear off of you while you're standing there. But the All African People's Revolutionary Party, the anti-capitalist Pan-African political party, is giving you the best economic lessons today for finances that you're going to find anywhere in this day and time. So median
is not the same as average. Median means that there's an amount that represents when you take everybody, you look at everybody's condition, the median represents, okay, this is the number that best reflects, where people are. Average just means, again, you just take everybody and you throw them in one pot, and whatever average comes out, you have that. Like some people might have $1 million, some people might have $1, and you just make an average, right? So $20,000 is the average credit limit. I didn't look up the median. I meant to, I just didn't have time to do it. But if we use that $20,000 credit limit figure, then that means that on average, people are utilizing their credit cards at about 20% of their capacity. Now, obviously, the majority of people don't have a $20,000 credit limit. So they're using a lot more than 20%. That's the point that we're making here. Probably more than double that. Probably 100% for a lot of people. Their credit cards are maxed out. That's what that means. Now you have, because this is how I operate. I know this. Like I'll explain to you in a minute. I have credit cards, and I try not to use them. I know, sometimes somebody that's not an option, and I've certainly been in that place in my life. Fortunately, right now I'm not. So I have them. I have limits on them, and I try not to use them because I want to, be able to navigate this system. You know, um, this house we're in, we got it when interest rates were a lot higher than they should have been. And so I want to be able to refinance that, just because if I drop dead, I don't want my family to have to, deal with something that, like this house is worth a lot more than we owe on it, but I want to be able to make things as easy as possible. So I think about that every day. So that's the only reason why I have these credit cards, not to go and charge up stuff that I can't afford. I don't do that, but to ensure that my uh, credit score stays high so that I can do whatever I need to do whenever I need to do it. And again, I'll explain, because I know a lot of you are like, what, huh? What'd you say? So we'll get to that. So what are the impacts here? Like, you know, if you're one of the lucky ones, you have employment that offers you paid time off. You have vacation time, you have sick leave, you have things like that where you can not go to work and you still get paid, right? Like I work for a labor union, so I have a lot of paid time off. I don't have to go to work. Like if I got sick this evening, I'm not going to, hopefully, but if I did and I got sick and I had to say, hey, I'm not coming to work tomorrow, I still get paid. I don't lose any money doing that. It's important to understand that the majority of people do not have paid time off on their jobs. There's so much misinformation, and the capitalist system wants you to be misinformed. They want you to think everybody has an outstanding amount of paid time off. That everybody has that, and the reality is that most people don't. Just like they want you to believe that undocumented immigrants receive all these services and don't pay anything into it, which actually it's the reverse. Undocumented immigrants work. They have individual tax identification numbers, or ITINs. Again, you can't have this conversation with people like me unless you know what you're talking about, because I understand how this system works. I mean I shut down people all the time, and I'll be honest, I shut the hell out of them down. I embarrass the hell out of them, because if you're so dumbass that you're saying racist things and you don't know what the hell you're talking, you should get shut down. You should get the shit slapped out of you, as far as I'm concerned. But that's that I don't want to go to jail needlessly. I'll go to jail for a reason that makes sense and is productive, but I don't want to go to jail easily. So I'm not walking around here slapping the hell out of people when they say stupid ass things, although oftentimes I want to. But a lot of people don't have paid time off, right? And so what a lot of people do in December that have jobs that have paid time off is will their employer will offer them the opportunity to uh, cash in vacation time. So they can take vacation time that they have on the books. Like, you get 8 hours vacation time and they have 40 hours, they have a week of vacation, and they can cash that in. So whatever that 40-hour week is in terms of their pay, they can get that in a cash amount. And people do that in December every year because that gives them money to buy Christmas presents or whatever they're buying. Most of it is for Christmas presents, so they do that. But again, this is a small percentage of people. These are the lucky people that have paid time off and have employers that are offer them the opportunity to do that, right? Because according to the Bureau of Labor Stats, which is your federal government, because it's not mine, but they say 80% of US workers exist within service industries, right? Meaning we're talking about bartender jobs, food server jobs, bussing table jobs. We're talking about jobs where people deliver what do they call it, Instacart and Uber Eats and drive Lyft cars. These are service jobs. People who have jobs who provide service to you. I want you to hear this: 80% of workers in this country work in the service sector, which means they don't have jobs that have if they have paid time off, it's limited, it's slim to none. Most of them have no paid time off, meaning if they don't work, they don't get paid. They don't have that. They don't have any type of medical insurance that their employer provides. If they get sick, they still have to go to work, which means they get sicker and they make everybody else there sick, and they still have to go to work, which is not healthy for any of us. And they don't have any type of retirement program. If they have a 401k type savings program, they don't make enough money to save anything even resembling a, a safety net when they stop working. That's why people in the service industry work a lot longer. They don't retire at 60, 65 years old. And if you don't believe that, all you got to do is go in a McDonald's anywhere and you see plenty of people in there 75, 77, 78, 79 years old working. That's why, because they don't have these protections, right? They don't have them. They have to keep working. They haven't been able to save money because they've never made enough money to save money, right? We went camping yesterday and we like to go to uh, uh, RV parks that have casinos in them. And the reason for that is my wife likes to have a good time. Um, and she's really some. She always wins money at the penny slot machines. I don't gamble. I don't know how she does it, but 9 times out of 10 she comes back in great shape. So good for her, and she deserves it. So I like to take her there. She enjoys it, and it's a good time. I don't do it. I stay with her for a few minutes just to watch her, but. Me, I'm at the coffee shop in the casino doing some writing. That's what I did all day yesterday, and did that and enjoyed it a great deal because I'm working on a manuscript and it's going to be a badass book when it's done. So that's exciting to me. I put my headphones on. I stayed there 6, 7 hours doing that. I my only problem in my life is I wish I had more time to do that because that's my therapy. That really helps me relax because I'm sitting there creating the world the way I want it to be in writing. Even after I'm dead, it'll still be available. People will still be able to uh, be inspired by it. So that's good. But my point is that we're there, we're doing that, and they have shuttles that take you from the RV park to the casino. So we took one yesterday together. We went down together so she could do her thing and I could do mine. And when I came back before her because I was coming back to check on the dog who was in the RV. And the guy who drove the shuttle was one of these people I'm talking about. He this is his job. He was my age, if not older, and driving a job. And he's like, I'm just doing this because we need extra money. If I didn't have this job, we wouldn't be able to give our grandkids anything for Christmas. This is what he's telling me. I'm just listening to him because I know that his story is a common story in this backward society, right? So if service jobs make up almost 100%, or I'm sorry, make up 80% of the jobs in this country, y'all have to be savvy enough to understand when these politicians, I don't give a damn which one it is, because they're all criminals. I don't care if it's Donald Trump or Joe Biden or Barack Obama or Bill Clinton or Donald Duck. I don't give a damn which one it is because they all tell the same lie. So if you're telling me they're different, I don't understand what the hell you're talking about when they all tell me. I hear them saying the same lie from an economic standpoint. Again, that's where I'm coming at all this from. And so they always tell you, oh, we created all these jobs. The Biden administration created all these jobs. We created 200,000 new jobs. The Obama administration created 200,000. These are service jobs, you all. They didn't create no jobs that have pensions, that have full medical care, that have paid time off. They're not, you don't even know, if you talk to young people now, they don't even know how to get jobs like that because those types of jobs are few and far in between in this society. They don't exist hardly anywhere outside of the public sector. Most people work in the private sector. Y'all that do that, you know, that have private sector service jobs, you don't have all of those benefits. Talk to people if you don't know. If you said, oh, that's not true, shut the hell up and get out of your little dark hovel and talk to some people so you can learn something and stop sounding like a damn idiot all the time and arguing with people when you don't know what you're talking about. Most people don't have these types of jobs. And because they don't have them, that means if they can get a credit card in December, they don't want to look like a loser because capitalism tells us every damn day that if you don't buy all this bullshit for everybody, you're a loser, and they don't want to feel like that. So they get that $1,000 limit credit card and they go out and max it up because they want to be able to sit there on Thursday, this coming Thursday, and feel like they have some dignity. And I don't know about you, but I think that's a goddamn shame. I think that's terrible. I think that's a reflection of the most primitive society in human history. That's how people are treated, and that's how people have to feel in order to feel like they have value in society. It makes no sense whatsoever. So, this is the part I wanted to get when I talked about the credit score. I wanted to explain to you because these are the impacts. The person went out, they spent up all this money that wasn't theirs because that's how you have to look at credit cards. I don't look at my credit limits and they're high limits. I don't look at them like, oh, I have that available. I don't have that. That's not available to me unless there's an emergency. Like somebody, like if my wife got sick and we went to the hospital and oh, your medical coverage is not going to cover that. We need $30,000 to do that. Yeah. And if I didn't have it, if I don't have that available, if I didn't have it, then that's where these credit cards will come into view. That's the only way that they would be utilized. That's it. Because I would use it for something like that, and they'd never see a dime of that money. They'd have to, that's just how that goes. Because healthcare should be free; it should be universal and free. You shouldn't have to pay for healthcare. That's another sign of a backward ass, primitive society. Even the other capitalist countries don't put that kind of pressure on the people that live in their countries. Even the countries in Europe have free healthcare, as backward as they are. And of course, the socialist countries like Vietnam and Cuba, of course, healthcare is 100% free, as it should be. As it should be. Of course, it should be free. So we don't have that here because this is a backward ass country that all of you all love it. You love it. You celebrate it. Thank you for your service. What the hell? What did they do for you fighting these wars? You don't even have free healthcare. What the hell are you talking about? Thank you for your service. Thank you for what? What the hell did you get? That's how you got to start thinking. What did you get out of any of this? Not a goddamn thing. And whatever you do have, like if you have a good job, if you are a woman, if you are a colonized person, if you're poor, if you're LGBTQ, you goddamn sure shouldn't be thanking the military for that if you have that. People got their heads busted so you could have the opportunity to have that job, a good job that has a pension, has health care. So what the hell are you? You don't ever thank those people who got their heads busted. That's why I think you're insane. You don't ever thank them. I thank them every day. I don't think that the military didn't do anything for me. You just go around on the street thanking random people for things in your life that you don't know and they didn't do anything for you. It's a whole. I say this all the time. There needs to be a licensed counselor with a booth on every corner in the society where you can just go to your corner closest to you and get free counseling, because people here are absolutely insane. And I'm with Arrested Development. I'm like, I try to uh, refrain and resist this whack society. I keep my focus. I keep my focus. I ain't giving into it. I keep my focus. I'm not, I'm not going to allow myself to let that dysfunctional thinking become dominant in my brain. That's absolutely insane. So, because we don't value the things we should value, we don't have the type of movement we need that would, even in Europe. Someone told me when I was in France years ago, someone told me the difference between the people in your country and the people in this country and throughout Europe is that the government here is afraid of the people. In the US, the people are afraid of the government. And I'm like, I always remembered that because I'm like, there's a lot of truth to that. So that's why you don't have anything here. That's why you don't have anything. But the way credit card is impacted is, you've all heard of, or you probably heard of, the Fair Isaac credit score. That's what FICO means. When they talk about your FICO score, Fair Isaacs is a company. And what they do is they run algorithms. And based on the algorithms, they determine what constitutes a credit score. And everybody gets one. The way it works is everybody's supposed to start out at 800. And then all these algorithms come in to impact your credit score. And you see the graph on the screen shows you what they are. 35% of your credit score is made up based on how you pay your credit, if you pay it on time, right? But most people are mistaken. They think that, well, if I pay my credit on time, that's all I have to do. No, that's not true. 30% is what you're owed. So almost as much as your payment history, how much you owe, especially when we're talking about unsecured credit card debt. If you have the example I gave, the person that got the $1,000 credit card so they could buy Christmas presents, if they go out like I described and they run that card up to $1,000 and it's maxed out, that is going to devastate their credit score, even if they pay the minimum amount on time every month. The reason for that is the way Fair Isaac's algorithms work is, if you have credit cards and you do not use them, you keep them open and you do not use them, or you at least not use the bulk of them, and you pay them down, you pay them off, then their logic is that you're a very low credit risk because you're not using your credit cards. So if you notice, when you have credit cards and you don't use them, or you pay the balances off, they increase. They don't even ask you. Like with my credit cards, they just increase the limits. They don't ask me shit. When I look at it, I'm like, oh, they raised that by $5,000. I didn't ask for that. I don't need it because I'm not using it. But it helps because the higher your credit limits, long as you don't use them, the lower your credit risk. And like I said, I'm trying to keep my credit score high, right? So that's how you do that. So you don't want to close credit cards. You just want to not use them. You want to pay them down and off and not use them. That's how you that'll raise your credit score 50, 60 points in just a month or two if you do that. If you a little longer than that, but it'll raise it in just a couple of months if you do that. But you got to keep the credit balances down. That's the key. That's the key. And then the other factors, new credit, you can't have a lot of new credit at the same time, because again, that looks to them like you're going to go out and spend it all. Length of your credit history, you got to be in there for a while. That's why you don't want to close your accounts. And then what kind of mix you have, right? That's obviously, these are the least amounts. But the bulk of your credit score is made up by how much you owe and how you pay it, right? And that's how that works. So you have to understand that, because a lot of people, they'll have $30,000 in credit card debt, $20,000, $10,000, $5,000. I pay it every month and their credit score is still lower and they don't understand why. Well, I just explained to you why that is, right? So there it is. And you have to understand, like, corporations have credit scores too. It's just different. It's called something different, but it's the same thing. But the way that they generate and how they're penalized is totally different than how you and I are penalized. And those are the contradictions within the capitalist society. Again, we don't stand up. We don't challenge them, so we don't get anything. That's all there is. Power concedes nothing without a demand. That's a universal principle in life. So the average credit score for people 40 and under is around 680. That's a decent credit score. You'll get credit. You won't be declined credit with a 680 credit score unless you have a high debt to income ratio, meaning unless most places want you at about 30% of your income, your debt being no more than about 35% of your income, your gross income. They go by gross income, not your take home, which benefits you, even though it kind of skews what the actual numbers are. That's how credit works in this society, because it's slanted towards the creditor. Like everything is slanted towards the capitalist. So 680 is a decent score. As long as you don't have a debt to income ratio, you'll get approval, but you'll pay a higher rate. You'll pay more money. Okay. The cutoff is usually at least 700. The best credit scores are 750 and above. And that's how you have to do that. So 680 will put you in the game, but you're going to pay a lot more money. And when you're talking about credit cards, car loans, mortgage loans, it's a lot more money you're going to pay. It's not just, oh, 5, 10 more dollars. No, it's going to be hundreds, thousands more dollars that you're going to pay for the same product, right? That's what it is. Like if you ever wondered these what do you call them? These car lots that say no credit approval required. Well, the reason why is to your down payment is the value of the car. So if you never make a payment, they don't care. And then they can repossess it and still resell the car, but they still make money. That's why they do that. High credit card debt is the primary factor in lowering credit scores. Like I mentioned, you're high risk if you have that. So the results of all this, the results of all this is that come January, you got the $1,000 credit card. They sent it to you. They ran the algorithms. They saw you sucker. Potential customer. They sent you the credit card with the high interest rate because your credit score was 615. But you're happy you got it because now you can go out and buy presents, and you have that stress on you to do that. You have all this stress on you to do that, to buy presents because you're going to be at dinner Thursday and you don't want to be, no, none of us will want to be the only person there who doesn't have presents, or only one there who has cheap presents. I have not celebrated Christmas since I was 17 years old. I'm 63, I'm going on 64 years old. I've spent most of my life not engaging in this nonsense, but yet I still feel pressure every time. And I hate that I do, but that just speaks to, it's nothing to do with me. It speaks to the amount of pressure this system, because 24/7, 365 days a year, they're promoting this nonsense. And so every year, people come and they have Christmas presents for me. And I love my family. I appreciate them. But it's uncomfortable for me because the reason why I don't celebrate these holidays is because I'm on an individual, personal mission to boycott capitalism to the best of my ability. You can't boycott everything because you got to have food, you got to have gasoline, all that. But to the best of my ability, I'm trying to not participate in things I don't need to participate in. So, and I don't believe in it. I'm not a Christian. And even if I was, this has nothing to do with Jesus. He wasn't even born in December. I know that. I can study things. I don't just go by what somebody tells me. So there's no reason for me to celebrate it. It hasn't made sense to me for quite some time. Shakura was never raised celebrating any of that stuff. She can tell you she was never raised with no Christmas trees or none of that. And she's fine. Her mental health is fine. People you're going to ruin that child like that. And their kids have no respect for them today. None whatsoever. But that's what they used to tell me. See, y'all, when you decide to live your life based on principle, in this society, you're going to go through hell. I've gone through hell, but I'm stronger because of it. I don't have any regrets. I'm happy about it. I look at people now, they forgot. I didn't forget. I remember they said that to me. And then now they're telling me their kids won't even talk to them. And that's the reality of it. So come January, folks, start getting these bills. They ran up the credit card, $1,000. High interest credit card We talked about all of this, how that works. So now they got to pay this. And they couldn't buy the presents in the first place, right? That's why they utilized the credit card and maxed it out. And so now they got to pay extra money to do this, money they didn't have just 30 days before. But when they don't pay, they're going to be treated like a criminal. The creditor is going to give their balance to a collection agency, and the collection agency is going to start calling them and treating them like they're a criminal. And that's how this society works. And all of this breeds depression. There's so much depression in December and January. Depression in December for people that don't have the capacity to participate the way the society tells them they need to participate. Depression in January when people have to pay the cost of participating and they don't have capacity to do that. And this is the results of that. And of course, stress translates into physical ailments. And so this is why this is the most unhealthiest country in the world, even though it's the richest country in the world. Meanwhile, consumers get no bailout. You're not told, well, you have student loans. They lie and tell you they're going to do that. All of them, you vote for me, I'll get your student loans waived. You still ain't got a dime. You ain't got, a small percentage of people may have been able to get some assistance, but most of you are still paying your student loans today. And you'll be paying them tomorrow. They didn't do anything but tell you they were going to do something and didn't do anything. I know that was one of Biden's campaign promises that he would do that, and you still paying your student loans. I mean, I'm just saying, if you want to continue to believe in that, that's your business. I'm just saying, if somebody lies to me, it takes one time. They're not going to be in a position to lie to me again and get my support. I'm going to be looking towards something else, something that I have a vision and ability to make happen, and do that and not be chump. I can't be no chump for people. But you don't get no bailout, right? You get none of that. You don't get any bailout for your credit cards. You don't get that. And a lot of you, or maybe not you, but your family members, your friends, your neighbors, your coworkers, they were telling you, remember this? This was just a year ago. It's not even that. It's not even a year yet that this fool has been in office here. Complete cockroach, fool, clown, pedophile, criminal. It hasn't even been a year yet. Not even a year yet. And your family, your friends, your neighbors were telling you were Elon Musk. Remember that? The Doge. Remember that? You were going to get $5,000 checks. That's what they were telling you. And you ain't got no $5,000 check, and they ain't got no $5,000 check. So you should remind them of that. I would if I were you. I don't have anybody around me that, would say that. I mean, thank God I don't, because I would probably be in prison. If they were coming over here talking to me about that nonsense, I probably wouldn't be able to be here talking to you right now. But they do that. So you got to remind them there's no bailout for you. There's none of that. And you, even when they gave you the stimulus check, you got hoed. That's what it is, because people here in this society are hoes. That's all they are. You get taxed. You get no services for your taxes. They take everything from you. That's a hoe. Stop talking about streetwalkers. At least they got sense enough not to pay taxes. You're the goddamn hoe. Stop telling. You want to know what a hoe is? Look in the mirror. You pay tax. You do everything they tell you to do. They're the pimp and you're the hoe. They tell you, we're going to steal everything from everybody in the world, and you support us, and you do it. You don't read shit to challenge. You don't do anything. Thank you for your service. That's the definition of a goddamn hoe. There is no greater example of a hoe. I know you don't like hearing. I don't give a damn, because it's the truth. It's the truth. If you don't want to be called a hoe, stop acting like a hoe. I'm not no hoe. Shit. I was one before I was able to figure some of this stuff out. But I ain't one now. Haven't been one for a long time. I don't like having to pay taxes, but I'm not like, thank you for your service. 50% of my money goes to the military. I don't want that to be the case. So consumers get no bailout, but look who does. The corporations. All their stuff is bailed out. In the 1970s, Chrysler was bailed out. Millions, billions of dollars. The 2008 bailout that your boy Barack Obama facilitated, $873 trillion to the banks. These banks got money. They got money to bail themselves out because they made the decision to make irresponsible credit loans on mortgages. They did. Nobody forced them to do that. If you did that, they tell you you're a disgrace. You should go to credit prison, debtor prison. They used to have that. When you owe money, you go to jail. These corporations aren't going to no debtor prison. All these politicians took out these payment protection loans during the pandemic, PPP loans, so-called small businesses that they had. All these people in Congress, Marjorie Taylor Greene, all this filth, none of them paid back a dime of those loans. Nothing's going to happen to them. $800 million was loaned out. You didn't get one. $800 million was loaned out. You know how much was paid back? Not even, just barely 5%. $757 million has been forgiven, which means they don't have to pay it back. That's 95%. And y'all run around here asking me why I don't celebrate these holidays. You ought to be out of your mind. Shit, the day I wake up wanting to participate in this nonsense, I hope I don't wake up. Shakur, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much. Wow. The chat is lit. Okay. There's just been so much information that has been shared today. You did an awesome job, Baba Jamu. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and your wisdom with us. This has been very insightful for me personally. And I think other folks in the chat, at least on Zoom, can also agree. If you are joining us from another platform, we would imagine it has been insightful for you as well. So yes. So please come back, you all. We have insightful seminars every weekend. Every weekend, there is new information to be learned. So please come back. Please join us again this following Sunday on December 28th. We are talking about the determination of socialist Cuba's revolution. And I will be honest with you all, Baba Ajamu is going to hold down the fort for the next couple of weeks. I will be in the Caribbean doing some Pan-African work, so I will not be with you all, but I know that this is going to be another very important topic. Please come, be ready to learn, and be ready to support these revolutions, you all, because it is up to us. And that starts with us understanding how we need to either support Pan-Africanist organizations or join an organization that is working for justice. So we're going to talk about both opportunities in just a second. Please make sure that you continue to support our comrades who are doing the work at home on the continent, whether it is helping the Burkina Faso organizations with us trying to make sure that we can raise money for the youth to have books and materials, school, office supplies to help them enhance themselves on an African-based level instead of being exposed to material that does not represent them. We are trying to buy revolutionary propaganda so that they can have books, as I said, written by Kwame Nkrumah, books that are written by Sekou Touré, Amilcar Cabral, so that they can have that representation. And more importantly, so that we can start to push the line of why Pan-Africanism is so important for the youth at home on the continent. So if you scan the upper left QR code, the red one, that will give you a list of Pan-African programs that our organization is hosting. We have a host of different platforms, whether you are tuning in on the YouTube page or whether you're listening to a podcast or an audiobook on Spotify or however you get your podcasts and audiobooks. We have so many different opportunities for you all to engage with this work and to get different information based on different time zones by different sub-chapters of the All African People's Revolutionary Party. We also want to bring your attention to the upper right corner. The black QR code is connecting you to a guide for organizing defense against white supremacist, patriarchal, and fascist violence. This is a book that Baba Ajamu wrote just a little shy over, like 5 or 6 years ago now. And it's a very short read, but highly, highly informative, and actually explains a lot of some of the topics that we talked about today and connects it to why this work is so important. We also like to say that this book that Baba Ajamu wrote is kind of a second chapter, if you will, of the Handbook of Revolutionary Warfare that we alluded to earlier in the presentation by Kwame Nkrumah. So thankfully, Ajamu was able to follow up with Nkrumah's words and is now talking about concepts that Nkrumah didn't get around to writing about, such as patriarchy and the frame of how we're trying to be Pan-Africanists as we approach addressing it, talking about homophobia and how we're trying to be Pan-Africanists and how we address it and frame to focus, right? And so definitely encouraging you all to purchase this book. This is actually a really great gift that you could buy someone. I know from experience, I bought it for a friend of mine, and she told me that she gave it to one of her friends' partners who is a male identifying person. And I was thinking to myself, okay, but you need to read it. So I'm still going to buy her another copy and send it to her. But my point is, you all can purchase those. And so we understand that, you know, we all have our political values, is why we don't support Amazon. But we've also talked to her blue in the face about how this book can only be purchased through Amazon. And until we as African people are organized enough to purchase our own printing presses and distribution systems to mail out these books after we package them and ship them and create them and bind them, then we're going to have to use the capitalist resources. So we don't want to hear why you don't support Amazon. You can find somebody else to purchase it for you so that you can still get this book out to the people. I talked about the Perkina Books QR code in the bottom right corner. And then just reminding you all that the self-defense classes will be back in Sacramento next week. Yes, on Thursday, 25th, as well as Thursday, the 1st, okay, of January. They will be in session and they will be holding space for us to continue to learn how to build connections and networks with our community, and also how to protect one another without relying on the police, okay, and the fascism that exists. So with that, we hope that we will see you back this Sunday. I will see you all in 2 weeks. You all be safe. Join an organization that is working for justice. Support Pan-Africanist organizations and figure out a way to resist the capitalism as much as you can, because we are winning. You all are strong. You are capable. You are worthy. We matter, okay? And we got this. But we have to have collectivism if we're going to do it. So with that, we thank you all. Be safe. We will see you back next week on the 28th to talk about the determination of socialist Cuba. Forward ever, backwards never. Thank you.